Hello, welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we discuss audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I'm in the middle of my Working Genius series, and I reached out to figure out, find a little bit more information on the combination of enablement and galvanizing. And Jason Miller became the target for this amazing discussion, and I'm so glad that he reached out to me because there are so many insights, and I'll probably be talking less in this podcast episode than I have in others, just to make sure we cover everything that he was able to share with me previously. Welcome, Jason. Can you tell me where you're located and how you got introduced to Working Genius?
Absolutely. Thanks. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Jason Miller. I am in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I work remotely for a company called Eide Bailly. It's a CPA and business solutions firm. And I'm an executive coach and development coach for Eide Bailly. And so I do one-on-one coaching for executives. I also do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of seminars, culture setting, team building type activities across the firm. And that's where Working Genius comes into play. I do a lot of Working Genius workshops at Eide Bailly for individuals and for teams.
Awesome. All right. And so I love how you kind of went into Working Genius in this realm that you're already in. Can you share how you were baptized by fire?
Absolutely.
into Working Genius facilitation.
So I was working with a senior partner who was the partner in charge of our international tax practice at Eide Bailly. And this partner there's a group of partners I call the super partners. And these are the ones that take leadership development really seriously. They love to develop their teams. They're always on the lookout for new things. And she reached out to me and said, hey, we have an in-person summit coming up. I want you to read this book, The 6 Types of Working Genius, and give us a workshop. And I was like, oh, okay. And I noticed, hey, that's Pat Lencioni. I know that guy because I've been doing 5 dysfunctions of a team for many years. But I had not yet discovered Working Genius. So I ordered the book. I read it. I loved everything about it. And I was like, okay, I've got to build a workshop around this. So I was messing around on the internet looking for resources. And sure enough, there's a certification course for facilitators. And I was like, this is great. So I took that, got everything, got certified, went out to Salt Lake City, which is where the offsite was, and did the Working Genius workshop. So we did a foundation workshop. And then the second part, the team wanted to assign new roles. They were rolling out some new initiatives and assigning new roles to folks. And so they wanted to use the Working Genius to establish that. And it was the perfect use of Working Genius. And so I was so fortunate to be invited to do that. I don't know how long it would have taken before I'd heard about it had she not brought it up. So it was very, very good timing. Since then, I've brought it into the firm, and it's taken off like wildfire and is just super popular and super helpful for everybody.
So when I started the series for Working Genius, and one of the reasons I did that is because Working Genius is what gave me the language of understanding that joy matters overall. It gave me the concrete substance that if it equals productivity, then I should probably pay attention to this. It's not as warm and fuzzy and abstract as I originally thought. Mm-hmm. And so I started inviting the Working Genius facilitators on here and ended up in the middle of an experiment of sorts that I didn't realize I had put myself in the middle of. And looking back, my major was sociology, and my first sociology class made me realize that this needed to be my major. And that was probably my 4th change, but it stuck. And it's because I love understanding how people interact with each other and studying group concepts. And so this has been the perfect storm of having Working Genius change my life in several ways. And I discovered in this, as I'm talking to facilitators, that enablement shows up in one way, galvanizing shows up in another way. I noticed there was a lot of correlation of facilitators that had one as a genius and one as a frustration. And so I wanted to know what it looks like for the geniuses of both enablement and galvanizing. And you have a great situation too to look at this in the way of you are doing both coaching and team building with this. So can you tell me how enablement and galvanizing shows up in coaching and how it shows up in training, just through the lens of Working Genius overall?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the galvanizing genius, that getting joy and energy from getting people interested in things, fired up in things, excited about things, is definitely present in both. However, in one-on-one coaching, I have to be very careful. The enablement genius is very present in one-on-one coaching, obviously. That support, that help genius, trying to find the most useful thing for my coaching client. What's the most useful thing we can talk about, the most useful thing we can do for them. In that case, I tend to have to turn the galvanizing down a little bit, because I don't want to seize on something too soon and start galvanizing around it if it's not what they really want. And so in coaching, we call that recontracting, making sure that we're talking about the most important thing for the client to be talking about. And so I have to be very aware that my galvanizing genius might hear something from the client and decide, ooh, that's a really good thing to work on. Let me get them fired up about working on that. And I have to consciously say no. They have to be the one to make that decision. Once they make that decision, and once we've asked all the questions and we're certain that this is the most important topic to discuss in this coaching session, then I can let my galvanizing out a little bit and give them some affirmation, get them excited about their journey along that topic and solving that problem, meeting that obstacle, or meeting that goal. But I have to be very careful. Enablement, I can let free in one-on-one coaching. Galvanizing, right, I have to definitely regulate. And so in teamwork, in workshops, my galvanizing gets to be on full display. So I'm an extroverted galvanizer, and extroverted galvanizers love to perform. We love to be on the stage. And so when I'm doing workshops, I really enjoy that part. I like getting the reaction from the audience. I like to make sure what I'm saying is landing, that people are understanding it. So I use my galvanizing genius almost as a measure in workshops to ensure that what I'm saying makes sense, what I'm saying is landing, it's resonating. It helps me to detect whether somebody might be checked out or not really interested in what I'm saying. And so I can sort of focus on, I'm using the best language. Is it being clear? Do I need to ask more questions? And I can invite people because galvanizers tend to notice reactions in the room or in the audience. So I can invite people to share and get clarity. And so I think it helps a lot there. I call it my performance genius.
Yes.
Introverted galvanizers show up differently. And so, but for extroverted galvanizers, we definitely love the stage. Obviously, regulation has to happen there as well, because I have to make sure that I'm still being useful and helpful to the audience, that the topic is being, I had a workshop, in fact, yesterday that did not go well, in my opinion, because I feel like in retrospect, in reflection, I was more excited about what I was sharing, the content, and not as focused enough on whether or not it was clear and useful to them. And so I noticed that. My galvanizing genius helped me notice that through the lack of responsiveness, for different kind of responsiveness with the group. And then reflecting later and re-looking at the slides and the content, I realized, some of this was just more complicated than it needed to be. Stuff I get really excited about, but I wasn't being careful enough that they were matching my excitement. And so that so my enablement genius was beating up on my galvanizing genius, telling me I could have been more helpful to them had I regulated my galvanizing a little better. So it's a constant kind of reflective exercise that we have to do as facilitators to make, because we like working genius. I love it. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world. I get so excited. I get so much joy and energy from presenting it and talking about it. But I have to make sure that the people I'm talking to are there with me and not way behind.
Yes. No, I love that term that you said your enablement was beating up on your galvanizing. I would definitely say my geniuses are wonder and discernment, and my discernment definitely beats up on my wonder from time to time.
It's always causing you to question, is this the right question? Is this the right thing? Is this the right?
Yes, exactly. So no, that was perfect. And I just want to highlight that galvanizing overall craves reaction, and enablement craves appreciation. And that was a great demonstration of that. So I loved when you were telling me about a recent virtual workshop that you did, and kind of the technical difficulties that snubbed your geniuses a little bit. Can you describe that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our offices in Phoenix asked for a working genius workshop, a foundation workshop. And so I said, absolutely, I can do this. I can do it virtually. And usually when I do these virtually, everybody's on their own computer, so I can see each individual face. This one was a little different. Everybody on that end in Phoenix were all together in a conference room. And so I was the big face on the screen, and they were all together at a table. And so I thought, ooh, well, this might not be ideal. My galvanizing might not get what it needs. But then I could see them. I could kind of see reactions, and I thought, okay, this is going to be fine. This is going to work. And so we started the workshop, and suddenly the video went out. And I was like, I can't see anybody all of a sudden. And they said, oh, sorry, this is on our end. We can hear you, but you're not going to be able to see us. And I could hear them. So I could hear some shuffling, some murmuring, some mm-hmm, and, any questions? And then I could hear, oh, I have a question. I'm like, okay. So that was going fine for a minute, but I did definitely feel my energy drop when I couldn't see the people. So I would say my energy was full, and then it dropped to about half. Then suddenly the audio on their end went out, because I no longer were hearing
I
the
cannot
shuffling.
even imagine.
And so I said, what questions do you have? And silence. And then I got a Teams message saying, yeah, we can hear you, but you can't hear us. We're having a lot of difficulty. So I had to do the second half of the workshop, not being able to see or hear them. And I have never felt so drained of energy. It was nearly impossible to get through, because neither of my geniuses, enablement nor galvanizing, were getting what they needed. I wasn't getting appreciation, and I wasn't getting any kind of response. And so, so when that workshop was over, I just wanted to crawl under my desk and sleep for like 10 days. I felt awful.
Did you get any feedback from that?
Yeah, they loved it. They gave me great feedback on the workshop, on the working framework. They heard everything I said, but I do breakouts in each half.
Oh, right.
I said, okay, here's the time for the breakout. I'm just going to trust you all are going to pair up with people you don't know very well and answer this prompt question. They did it. But I wasn't getting any response at all. So I was just talking to a dark screen. It was really, really hard. And so no joy or energy from that one at all.
Right.
Did get some energy back when I got the feedback saying, hey, that was really useful. Thank you. It was really helpful. And I was just like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, because you had no idea.
Yeah. And I had to get through the rest of my day, so I needed some energy back.
That would crush me as well.
Yeah. It was really hard.
Okay, so let's go into how Working Genius has shown up in your personal life, based on your knowing your wife's geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you discussed there were some reoccurring arguments that kind of were able to be alleviated or find a solution to just by knowing Working Geniuses. Yeah. Can you share?
Absolutely, yeah. And so there's a couple of areas. So I'll share kind of two little aspects. So the first one is vacation planning. And so I know this one comes up a lot for whatever reason, but it's funny because before Working Geniuses, my wife, Kate, would come to me and say, hey, I think we should go on vacation. And I would just feel this like pit in my stomach, just like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. Why do we got to leave? All my stuff is here. This doesn't make sense. Let's just hang out here. I'll take time off from work and we'll just do stuff around the house. And she's like, no, there's value in unplugging. There's value in getting away. There's science behind this, which of course she was right. And so, we would have this struggle every time. And so she would dread coming to me and saying, hey, it's time, the kids and I and you need to get out of here and go do something and go explore somewhere. And, and so we took the Working Genius. And once I took the Working Geniuses, she took the Working Genius as well. And we were looking at our results together and going through and talking about what they meant and listening to some of the podcasts. And she had this moment. She's like, I have an idea. And so she kind of went off and came back, and she came back with, here's some places we could go on vacation, and here's some potential itineraries for these. I'm going to send you these. And it was so different. Like I had so much joy and energy. She sent me these links and I was like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. We could do this. And she's like, well, here's another one. So my frustrations, wonder, and invention got no joy and energy out of deciding where to go or how to get there.
Right.
So invention's her third. And so she was using her enablement genius, pairing with her third, which was acting like a genius, to say, oh, well, let me just present some options and see if that changes the energy. And it did completely. So now I get links. It just happened the other night. I get links sent to me on my phone saying, hey, what do you think about this place? And I get really excited about it because I don't want to have to figure out where we're going to go or how we're going to get there. So she's like, here's where we could go. And here's, we can drive. It's 2.5 hours. And I'm like, I'm ready to galvanize the kids and get ready to go on vacation. And That's super helpful.
No,
The
yeah.
other one I'll share is in just how we present information to each other. Discernment's my third, but for Kate, discernment's a frustration. And so with the working genius, we learned that discernment, people with discernment in a genius or their first competency will tend to feel the right answer before they know it in their head. And they crave trust, and they crave you just to trust their judgment.
Yes.
People with discernment as a frustration need more facts to make decisions. They don't go with their gut, they go with data.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that suddenly helped me anytime I wanted to convince, hey, this is the coffee pot we should buy, or we should look into whatever it is. I used to be like, yeah, this seems right. This feels right. And she was always like, no, wait. This doesn't feel right to me. And so now I go with, well, here are all the reviews. Here are all the features that we like. I present the data, and it helps her make the decision faster or discuss it in a more healthy way. Yes. Than me with my feelings and her with the need for data just sort of clashing. And
right.
So
no,
it helps us come together that way.
That makes sense. And I think I've realized that enablement and galvanizing have been the most difficult for me to explain. Like I can explain it based on what I've been taught and how it shows up in me. But you have given really good information, stories, illustrations that have helped just open my eyes to this overall. So I hope others are able to glean from this as well. We talked a little bit about coaching, and I want to highlight that a little bit because I've had a lot of consultants, coaches, guides, I'm not even sure what else they call themselves, but overall, it has been, I feel like the concept has been somewhat watered down, and there's a push in the industry of coaching. And you mentioned before that it's not really regulated.
Right. Yeah.
So can you give me your definition of what a coach is outside of all the nuances of coaching?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll give credit to Claire Pedrick, who is one of my mentors and gurus in coaching. And her definition in the best book on coaching I've ever read, which is called Simplifying Coaching by Claire Pedrick. Her definition is this: a coach is a thinking partner. That's it. A coaching session is a conversation between two people about the thinking of one of them. And for a coaching session to be successful, two things have to happen. Only two things. One, the client needs to be heard. They need to be heard. And second, they need to gain some new insight into their own stuff that they didn't have before. And so I love taking it down to the most simple aspects, because you're right. Like, the industry has gotten, in my opinion, a little crazy with the niches and the kind of, people trying, and that's all marketing. So any coaching course that's ICF approved, which is the only coaching course that would have some, rigor around it, is going to have the same methodology. So your life coach, your executive coach, your performance coach, your whatever, your energy coach, they're all going to have the same foundation of how to conduct a coaching session. But the marketing comes in when people try to market a niche. And that's where you hear about all the different types of coaching. But really, the foundational method should be the same.
So I didn't ask you this before, so I'm gonna. This is a question that just popped into my head. Wonder and discernment at work. Yeah. When should you fire a coach?
When they're not useful.
Okay.
So coaching has to be useful to the client, and so that, to me, one of the things the ICF really is very adamant about is this concept of recontracting, making sure that we're checking in with the client frequently to make sure what we're talking about is useful. Is this useful? Is this helpful? Are we on the right track? It can't be what I want it to be. It has to be what the client wants it to be. And so if you're in a coaching relationship and you don't feel like that coach is sensitive to that, adhering to that, paying attention to that, you're not being coached. That person then is an advisor, maybe even a mentor, but not a coach. And so if you're paying somebody for coaching, they should be asking you questions to draw out from you the opportunities, the options, the hopes and dreams. If they're telling you, or if they're not checking in to make sure that what you're doing is on the right track, that's useful to you, then it's not a good coaching session.
Okay. And you've described enablement as being useful. right? And
Exactly. And
then
that's, I
galvanizing is
love that word
engagement.
because it's connected to coaching. So I'll say
Yeah,
that a lot with enablement, that part of that genius is getting joy and energy from being useful, from being helpful.
right.
And so, and
Okay.
that connects directly to my coaching philosophy.
Yes, and I can see how that would need. I had a galvanizer pitch coaching to me recently, and there's definitely a different vibe when you're coming from a galvanizing
Oh yeah. Yeah.
lens or an enablement lens.
Right.
So,
Because galvanizers, when we're galvanizing, we're excited and getting joy and energy from something we've decided to galvanize.
okay.
It could be the wrong thing. And this is where galvanizers get into trouble. Often galvanizers, extroverted galvanizers, are often sometimes seen as superficial, used car salesman types. They'll get
Mhm.
accused of that. And that's because when they're galvanizing about something that they really are excited about and not reading the room and not noticing, hey, nobody else here cares about this, then everyone's just waiting for them to leave. And so we have to be so aware of that tendency so that we're
Mhm.
galvanizing the right things. I spend a lot of time in my workshops talking about regulating the geniuses.
Right. Okay.
Just
So,
because just because we get joy and energy from it doesn't mean it's the right time, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're good at it.
okay.
It just means
Right.
we like it a lot. So I
Right.
love
Okay.
galvanizing, but I could galvanize you on something you don't want to be galvanized on. I could galvanize at the wrong time. If I'm not careful, I could really put you off based on over galvanizing.
Yeah. So, okay. So that makes sense in this. So I typically, when I'm hiring salespeople, I believe they need to have the galvanizing genius. And there's a particular salesperson that I was on a team with. I didn't hire him. He just had been on the team for a while, and I knew him virtually and didn't and only had intermittent discussions with him. I didn't know him very well, but I'm very adverse to flattery. I don't like it. It brings up all these like ooh, I don't. It gives me the EBGBs.
Your
And
discernment genius hates flattery, but it makes sense because you're like, is this genuine? Is this real? Is
yes.
this why are you saying this to me? Yeah,
So
I can
I
see
ended
that.
up in a room with him on a team, and I was like, "Oh, he is genuine. Like he really is like this." So it's not. It can be a put off in the sense of you are a salesperson or you're here in this and your galvanizing is authentic. It is
Mhm,
authentic. But again, if you aren't regulating it, if you aren't
mhm,
noticing how it's falling on other people, then it can look differently than what you want. And
mhm.
so that just makes a lot of sense as I was considering that relationship because it didn't seem authentic, but in galvanizing, it is authentic because you are really excited
Mhm.
about the thing or
Yeah,
whatever is going on.
it's
Just
true.
maybe other people don't understand
Yeah,
that,
and so
that
that's
excitement.
the grace we need from other people, especially
Right.
people that find it frustrating. And this happened on my team when I first got hired at iBailey. Is how are you doing, Jason? I'm doing great. I'm fantastic, and I was so excited to be there. I was like so excited to be in my new job. And one of the coaches on my team pulled me aside once and said, "I don't believe you. Nobody's that happy all the time. You're not being real with us. You're not being genuine." And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I am though really always really this excited. I really am. Right. So it took us some
Right.
time for us to realize that I'm not being superficial. Whatever's happening, I tend to be really excited about it because it gives me energy.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
looking as a galvanizer, I'm walking into a room, I'm looking for what can I seize on and be excited about to galvanize other people around. I'm trying to
Yes.
find that thing. And same with enablement. I walk in saying, where can I be helpful? Where can I provide support? Oh, there's an unwashed dish. Let me wash it. And so,
Right.
but unregulated, both can get us into trouble.
No. And this
So,
is just another way that Working Genius provides that language
mhm,
and to alleviate the guilt and judgment as
exactly.
well in the
Yeah,
conversations. So
and
and provides open and honest dialogue as well.
definitely.
So I
Yeah.
love that. I love uncovering more and more of why I
Mhm,
love Working Genius.
absolutely.
I, okay, so So I've said this, and it's landed different ways with different people, as I've said this on the podcast. But I told you my theory on competencies being part of life, or a response to life experiences and possibly even trauma.
Mhm.
And so you hadn't really thought about that. But then when we had the discussion about it, you were telling me something that you had noticed when working geniuses have changed. Can you
Mhm.
elaborate? Or the
Sure.
competencies, not the
Yeah.
geniuses, but the
Yeah, and this
have
is all
changed.
really very like early tentative. But
Right.
one of the benefits of working in a firm and being internal is that I have access to a lot of people and I can get them to take the assessment. And
Right.
so there have been a few people who have taken the assessment, and I'm curious because we don't have enough data yet to know, like, do the working geniuses change over time? Are there life events that cause them to change? And so working genius has been around for, I think, a little over 3 years now.
All right. It's
So they've
very
had like 500,000 people
new.
take it. So at some point in the future, we will know the answer to this question. But I'm really curious to see, like, do they change over time and what might cause those geniuses to change? And so something I've been doing a little bit is, and this is not scientific, so if Table Group is listening, please do not be mad at me.
But if the table group is listening, I personally would love to be on the research team.
Right, me too. I would too. And so I've looked
Okay,
at some
sign us up.
people, some people who've taken Working Genius 2 years ago, and I've asked them to take it again. The ones that have moved to different roles, some that have been promoted like to partner in the firm, because I want to see if those major shifts, those major changes have caused any kind of change. And so I don't have a lot of data. I've got just a handful of these. But what I've noticed is that sometimes the second genius and the first competency swap. And I've also noticed that the fourth competency and the first frustration swap. So that's a pattern I've noticed in these handful of people. So I'm very curious when we get more data to
Yes.
see what that looks like. And I was just meeting with a client earlier this week who had gone through, and so she took it again, and we were discussing the change, and we saw that shift, that swap. And I'm
Okay.
curious about, and we were talking through like how these things showed up and what they meant. And it was interesting because a lot of the kind of wisdom she gained through the struggles had caused some of, like, for example, tenacity was really high in the
Okay.
first time she took it. And in fact, it was her second, it had moved all the way to the end. It was her last frustration. And she said, I've realized through going through all of this that deadlines and milestones don't matter as much, because really it's about people, it's about being helpful, it's about being useful. Her first genius remained enablement. But it's interesting to see how.
Yes.
So there's more to come on that. It's
Yes.
obviously very tentative, and so
Right. Yes.
we shall see. Yeah.
Yes. Which I can't wait to see what
Yeah.
else unfolds.
So I'm trying to track it. I'm a political scientist by training, so I have no
Oh,
idea.
right.
I have no idea how to do this data wise. I made it. So I'm trying to do it like, paper and pen and try to.
Right. No,
At some point, I hope we can feed into some larger real data analysts doing real scientific work on this, because I'm very curious to see how it plays out.
Yes. Oh, and see there, wonder is one of your frustrations, and
It
you're
is.
curious.
So I can do
You're
it. That's the
curious
thing I tell
about
people.
it.
You can do your frustrations. In fact, you can be really good at your frustrations. They just drain you faster.
You're right.
So that's the
Exactly.
only wondering I'm going to do for the next 3 hours.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you brought up political science. So with my last question, that involved something that was difficult that turned into something more joyful, and you are able to this not only encompasses joy, it encompasses how Working Genius shows up and really brings a team together, and
Mhm.
it gives a perfect picture of that. But I also, before you go into that, I'd like you to segue into that story by just describing kind of what you were doing
Sure.
coaching, team building,
Yeah,
things like that.
pre-working genius, pre-coaching.
Yes.
Well, it's still coaching, but pre-working genius. So my previous career was at the U.S. Department of State. I was a foreign service officer for 24 years. So living and working overseas in embassies, and it was wonderful. And rising up through the ranks, I had always sought positions where I was kind of the number two. I was kind of the deputy, because I loved execution. I loved getting
Mhm.
teams fired up, and I loved being helpful. And so I loved executing someone else's vision. And so that was really my sweet spot. But the problem is when you're in a system with a structure, you can only do that so far. And people say, wow, you're really, really good at being the number two. You need to be the chief. You need to be the boss. You need to be the section head. And I never liked that idea. I always felt like, no, that's not for me. I really love being the second person because that helps. I can stay close to the team. I can execute the vision. I'm doing the work. I'm part of rallying people. And it makes sense. I didn't have the benefit of my working geniuses at the time, but it makes sense looking at through the lens of the genius. But they kind of forced me to do it because that's just, the thing is a lot of times in large organizations, people are ambitious on your behalf. And they're sort of like, well, you need to be ahead of a section because it's time. You've been here so long and you've done all these things. And so my last overseas posting, I was the head of a section, and I was a management officer. So I was the head of a section and I had about 30 people. And I thought, okay, well, this might be all right. And so I was walking around, getting to know people, getting excited, learning about what everybody did. And it was going really well. But then one day I got this cable from Washington that said, hey, you're the head of the section. You need to send in your annual strategy cable, basically about everything you're going to do, what your section's going to accomplish and all this stuff. And we need it by Friday. And it was a Monday. So you have a week to do it. And I just felt this just drop in, and I just felt like drained, completely drained. I mean, it was in the morning. I'd come in, I'd high-fived everybody. I felt great, got to my desk, read this, and just drained. And so I was trying all week long. I'm trying to write this thing, and I can't come up with anything. I just cannot come up with anything. And I'm feeling really horrible. I'm starting to feel like I'm the wrong person for this job. This is how they discovered it. I'm a total imposter. I should never have been hired. I should never have been put in this position. I'm going to have to go home short a tour. Like, we had not been there very long. So I had moved my entire family overseas. And we're going to have to leave because obviously I can't do the job because I can't write this stupid cable about the strategy. And so Friday morning, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come in. I'm going to write my short of tour cable. I'm going to write a cable saying it's time for me to go home. I'm the wrong person. I can't do this job. So I went in really early. I was feeling horrible. Didn't sleep at all. Felt awful. And I walked in, and my deputy, Walter, was there. And he's like, hey, what are you doing here so early? I said, oh, Walter, I got to tell you, this is terrible. I haven't talked to you about this, but I need to talk to you about this. And I explained the whole thing. And he's looking at me like I was crazy. Like, what? And I said, yeah, this is the reality. So I came in to write this cable to rescinding my tour and starting the process to move everybody back to the States. And he just said, step aside. And he got on the computer and he started typing. In about 20 minutes, he had the most beautiful strategy cable you've ever seen. And he's like, here, hit send on this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. He goes, this is what I do. So he said, you belong here. We need you. You get everybody fired up. You're always spotting things people need. You're always connecting people to resources, helping them get promoted, helping them set goals. And you get people really excited about their work. He said, I don't know how to do that, but I can write a strategy cable anytime you want one.
Right.
And so later now, understanding that with wonder and invention as my frustrations, I was not getting any joy or energy out of coming up with, it was just a blank cursor blinking on a screen. I was not getting any joy or energy out of coming up with that strategy.
Yes.
But my deputy, who has wonder and invention as his geniuses, was like, he could do that all day long. And so it was just another example of how understanding the geniuses on the team can really help you, one, avoid imposter syndrome, which is what I was buried in, ensconced in, but also leaning on other geniuses. One of the nice things that we learn in the facilitation course is if you don't have a genius, you can borrow one.
Yes.
And it works really effectively. And that's an example of borrowing Walter's geniuses allowed that cable to be written, allowed me to have a good tour, and, do what I was there to do, which was, help people achieve their goals, help people get promoted, finding resources, getting people excited. And as the deputy, he did a great job doing all the invention and wonder. So I didn't have to. And so I think that's the real value of teams understanding working genius. Because then it helps them do that and avoids the conflict. It would have been terrible for me to go home short. It would have been really disruptive to my family. And so,
yes.
It's working genius. Walter saved us with his working geniuses.
Yes, and
So,
yeah, and that is the way that a team should show up
mhm,
for each
mhm,
other. We do get very siloed, and what was,
mhm.
and if he had been asked to do like a galvanizing activity, he would have been the one,
Oh, he would have
up
hated it. Yeah,
at
he would
night,
never.
like I don't know what to
No.
do. And a lot of times, and when I'm interviewing for jobs, this is what I try to pick up on, because for me, if I am going to have to do something that's within my frustration, it's going to just keep dropping down
Mhm.
to the bottom of the list until the adrenaline has to kick in, because now it's due in like an
Yeah.
hour, right? And so that's what I try to determine if the majority of the job would have to lean on procrastination, stress for
Mhm.
this person in order to get it done.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that totally,
Mhm.
what you just said was a great demonstration of how a team should work, covering imposter syndrome, and just overall how joy and energy should be used in the position that you have. And that definitely, if you're in a leadership position, there's you have the team there for
Right.
you, right, and
Exactly.
for each other. So it should be
Yeah.
something that should be infiltrated
Mhm.
throughout the organization. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
all right. Well, yeah, I am so glad that we connected overall, and I hope
Absolutely.
that there's a way for us to possibly work together in the future, because this has been one of the most enlightening conversations that I've had
Oh,
overall, and
wonderful. Yeah.
it gave me so much vocabulary for
Mhm.
enablement and galvanizing, and now I know that the two can work
You
together.
can. Yes. Yes. The enthusiastic encourager has a place in this world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And who doesn't want to be described as that?
Right. Exactly. We just have to be careful. We read the room. So.
That's exactly, yes.
Right.
So thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
thank you for sharing all your wisdom.
Yeah. Thank
Talk
you.
to you
It's
soon.
been fun. Take care.